Who could have predicted that in the wake of the Scottish Powerpuff Party quietly shelving the gender recognition debate, postponing incorporating transgender and non-binary categories into the 2021 census, that a nonsensical alternative would make its way through the civil servants' offices to be unveiled in its place? The irrelevant question of sexual orientation, which will be included for the first time, will also be accompanied by an equally irrelevant expansion to the category list, bringing the overall amount of sexualities to choose from to 21, as opposed to what would have presumably been around 3. I mean, they quietly 180'd completely on the transgender toolkit for schools and postponed the gender recognition reforms to a later date. But it hasn't stopped all there is to know in relation to gender and the LGB emphasis on the T as a whole being forced into the academia, which begs the question, are these new sexualities also incorporated into the children's so-called education? I mean, surely there has to be someone somewhere who will be receptive to this. It's either that or there's literally nobody here or anywhere else for that matter who's heard of this shit. Unless they've taken some SMP apprenticeship course, formerly known as a uni degree. But in the wake of pandering to the transgender community, or any other minority group for that matter, taking the theory of intersectionality and using it to shape every policy and legislative proposal, it just seems that every semblance of normality and traditionalism, bit by bit, has been phased out and completely and utterly replaced with nothing other than UN-approved concepts to ensure the social engineering of Helmet Head's Rainbow Unicorn Land takes roots. So, where to begin? So, civil servants have said terms including skyliosexual, gynophilic and demi-romantic will be understood. Edinburgh's uni Dr. said the huge list could blur data, with census chiefs facing ridicule after putting forward the mammoth sexuality choices for Scotland's population survey. Politicians and church bosses have hit out at the raft of suggestions drawn up by the civil servants. Comes as academics have raised fears that the huge list designed to help plan appropriate services for all minority groups, of course, would merely hamper such efforts after the 2021 exercise. Mocking the descriptions, a Tory spokesman said most Scots will think it's ridiculous to have 21 options, when other would have taken care of the vast majority. Clearly the general public wouldn't even know where to begin with some of these descriptions. And of course, has to be said, just like the recognised list of gender identities, a good portion of them are either nonsensical or are duplicates, realistically. So we have androphilic, person of any gender who loves men or who is sexually attracted to men. Surely that would either be a heterosexual heterosexual female or a homosexual man. Androsexual, a person who has sexual feelings towards masculinity. Again, surely that would be somebody, for the most part, who is either a heterosexual female or a heterosexual homosexual man. Asexual, doesn't experience sexual attraction. Bi-curious, interested in sexual experience with same sex. How is that a sexuality? Bisexual, attracted to both men and women. Demi-romantic, only experience romantic attraction after developing emotional connection beforehand. Demisexual, doesn't experience sexual attraction unless they form a strong emotional connection. Alright. Fluid, oh yes, here we go. Person who experiences changes in their sexual... For fuck's sake, Jesus. Oh god. Gay, sexually attracted to members of the same sex. Gynophilic, person of any gender who's sexually attracted to women or femininity. Again, Is this not just a straight man or a lesbian? But of course we have to incorporate the thousands of gender identities to choose from. My mistake, how could I have been so silly? Forgive me for my transphobia. Gynosexual, attracted to females or female body parts. Really? Really? Okay. Homosexual. Is that not just gay? Why is there two? See what I mean? Heterosexual, sexually attracted to the opposite sex. Lesbian, woman who is sexually attracted to other women. Pansexual is literally just the same as bisexual. Attracted to all gender identities, and considering there's no such thing as gender identities, it's just bullshit. You're either male or female. There is not a multitude to choose from. And when we take the fact that there is not a multitude to choose from, that leaves you with none other than the definition of bisexual. Polysexual, sexually and or romantically, what's the fucking difference? Whatever, attracted to many genders. Okay, well it doesn't exist then. Many genders, how many are we talking about here? 15, 20, 5, 9, infinite? Anyhow, queer, sexual and gender minorities who aren't heterosexual or are not cisgender, another term that doesn't exist. Listening, person who may be unsure, still exploring. Skylosexual, a person who's attracted to people who are transgender or non-binary. Okay. Straight, sexually attracted to members of the opposite sex. Unsure, someone who's not sure of their sexuality. Wow. They've got 21 to choose from. The Edinburgh academic said a sexual orientation question with overcomplex predictive response options, not all of which describe the sex that a person is attracted to, means less complete information may be collected. Quite why anything regarding sexual orientation needs to be incorporated into a census is quite beyond me. Why does the government need to know if you're gay? Demi-romantic does not tell us whether a person's gay or not. Blurring the data means that we risk undermining our ability to accurately plan for services, as well as our ability to track and challenge sex discrimination. What's rampant, didn't you know? Dr. Murray of the Murray-Blackburn-Mackenzie policy added, "We think that the census should collect clearly defined data on sex and trans status separately to generate robust data." The Christian Institute, which has almost 10,000 Scottish members, branded the term bewildering. Spokeswoman added, "Using this kind of obscure language risks bringing the whole process into disrepute." But Cara Spence from LGBT Youth Scotland and Tim Hopkins of the Equality Network defended the options in a letter to Holyrood's Culture, Tourism and Europe Affairs Committee. The charities helped to drop the list, of course they did. It said an estimated 10 to 20% of LGBT people don't identify under the main terms. Whether that's true or not, does that mean that you need to incorporate a specific and additional choice for each and every single different sexuality that somebody may or may not identify themselves as being? Not providing the other option would more likely mean many people who use different terms would not answer at all, and the data quality would be seriously affected. Oh. Adding not providing the other option would be, God forbid, the government is unable to figure out if somebody is a pansexual two-spirit butch. I'm sure community chair in Nats, MSP Joe McAlpine, said the options only used non-offensive language that did not include duplicates, could be understood by the general public, and were consistent with guidance which would be provided with answering questions. I'm pretty sure there's a few duplicates in and around this list if I'm not mistaken. Homosexual, gay, pansexual, bisexual, to name two. Unsure, questioning, rather similar. Anyway, a census rehearsal will be held later on this year, with the orientation question being voluntary and for over 16s. Now, if the sexual orientation question remains in the census after the rehearsal, and it indeed remains voluntary, then it kind of contradicts the claims being made that it could hit data that the government supposedly intends to accumulate as a result of incorporating this to begin with, does it not? What's the fucking point of all this hoo-ha if it's going to be voluntary? A spokesperson for the Edinburgh-based NRS said we'll evaluate the responses, including whether predictive text options need refining. The UK Office for National Statistics said people in England and Wales would not be given the 21-strong list of suggested options. How are you going to cope? How the fuck are you going to cope? Bet you wished you lived north of the border now, boys. Well, I suppose you can, theoretically, considering anybody and everybody is Scottish these days. Interchangeable, expandable, expendable, even. Yep. Peace.